Hello and welcome friends. In this particular session, I am going to discuss some of the issues in India related with municipal solid waste management. In this session, we'll touch the present collection scenario, impact of solid waste disposal, certain challenges in view of municipal solid waste management, some earlier and intermediate steps suggested and guidelines laid down for the improvement of solid waste management, as well certain reasons for the improper management. As you learn the content, you will be able to state the status of solid waste management in India, as well impact of solid waste disposal on various components of the environment. As well, you will also be able to tell some earlier and intermediate efforts taken by government for the improvement of solid waste management. Please note that the content that we wish to discuss here is going to form some background related with the theoretical concepts that we wish to discuss ahead as a part of our academic requirement. Hence, the information I am trying to share is mostly current one. However, if some of the references I haven't mentioned, you may consider this in regards to our academic interest only. As far as India is concerned, according to 2011 census, its population was 1.28 billion. Based on that, if projected for 2020, it comes to be 1.38 billion. In the report, it is also mentioned that growth of the urban population is at much higher, faster rate as compared to that in rural regions. Due to the population growth, industrialization, urbanization, and economic growth, there is a significant increase in municipal solid waste. This generation rate is small in various towns as compared to the metro cities. On an average, this generation can be considered to be 0.2 to 0.5 kg per person per day. This particular generation is expected to rise to the tune of 1.032 kg per person per day in 2030 in regards to the urban population of 586 million going to be. As far as this particular solid waste management system, the current scenario is concerned, mostly we deal with only 4 activities, that is waste generation, collection, transportation and disposal. Even as we think of this particular disposal, there is a huge requirement of land for ultimate disposal, which is scarce as we deal with big cities, metro cities, and hence the ultimate disposal on land has become quite a challenging issues for such big cities. As we think of this particular present collection scenario, I am intentionally discussing about this because this collection as well as transportation attracts around 50 to 60% of the total budgetary provision. Hence, collection and transportation is major element as far as solid waste management is concerned in view of the financial aspects. So, as we think of this particular collection scenario, there are no bins in many cases. Also, there is not proper synchronization of this particular collection mechanism with the status of the community bins. As you see here, the receptacles being used in order to receive that particular solid waste are not adequate. At the generation end, the use of bucket as well as open lid bins is very common finding. Many a times, all categories of this particular waste ultimately reaches the streets, some open plots, even the roadside drains, and the areas immediate adjacent to water bodies. All such situation is leading to unhygienic conditions. So if we think of this particular waste collection, recovery and disposal, waste is generated at one's residence, commercial establishment and similar point. Also, this kind of the waste is being combined with the market and waste being generated at the various open areas and even certain commercial establishment. This entire waste is clubbed with the street sweepings which are being collected by various urban local bodies. Hence, this intermingled waste being collected from the commercial establishment, street sweepings, open areas and such with the household waste is collected at certain storage places. From that particular waste may find access to some unauthorized dump site such as open plots, water bodies and some similar areas. From a storage places, waste may find direct access to the dumping ground, or it is expected to be collected through this particular transfer station and further transported to these particular dumping grounds. In fact, this particular transfer station is key component in order to enhance the cost effectiveness of this particular solid waste management. However, the use and economical analysis of this particular transfer station is not effectively used as far as Indian scenario is concerned. As we think of the point of generation or the community beings or dust beings, transfer station and dump sites, at each of such places there is informal sector who is assisting for the recovery of the waste from each of such places. From that particular point, the waste is sent to centralized or decentralized recycling centers. As we think of these particular recycling systems, the way touched on the previous slide, from the open areas such as parks, streets, the rat pickers are collecting that kind of recyclables. Municipal solid waste, which is finding the access to these particular junk yards, from there also rat pickers will be collecting the waste. Certain household waste or certain commercial establishment like hotels and markets may sell the kind of the waste they are generating directly to that particular scrap dealers. Also, these particular rat pickers sell their collected recyclables to these particular scrap dealers, from where it goes to the scrap wholesalers and ultimately it enters into the recycling market. As we think of this particular unauthorized access of this particular solid waste at various disposal places, we can think of lot many impacts. Say for example, as we think of this particular human health and hazards associated with solid waste, there is an epidemical relationship of 22 diseases directly with the handling of solid waste. As solid waste litter on the street, on the open spaces, and as it degrades in the urban environment, it loses the ambience and aesthetics of that urban environment. Also, the degradation and decomposition of this particular organic matter is a main reason for emitting obnoxious gases, and hence there is a presence of foul smell. There is an emission of methane, H2S and ammonia like gases being generated as waste starts decomposing. Also, the open dumps attract the pest, rodents as well as birds, and these are major reason for transmission of pathogen. Also, as we think of these particular birds and also other rodents, their fecal matter can carry more than 60 transmissible diseases. There is a bird menace because every dump is endless supply of the food, as well as we think of the endless supply of the food and habitat. The birds are forgetting finding the places for the food as well as for their breeding. Hence, there is also the menace of these particular solid waste dumps for the bird life. As we think of certain long-term effects, the waste being dumped, getting decomposed, as it joins with the surface water, as it joins with the water which is getting leached down, and this particular surface water or the water which is getting leached down as it joins the water bodies, it is imparting certain nutrients to the water bodies, which is major reason for the eutrophication of the water bodies. Also, the heavy metals being leached find access to the water bodies as well as groundwater, and also they enter into the food chain and also get biomagnified. The leachate rich with these particular heavy metals is the major reason for the soil pollution, as well as we think of this particular emission of methane like gases and even certain non-scientific burning and the frequent fires caused because of the generation of ignitable gases like methane. There is an emission of greenhouse gases, there is an emission of particulate, there is a presence of smoke, and such things are reason for the air pollution. Even as we consider about the dumping of the waste over the considerable period, say for example, if we consider the case of this Ghazipur landfill in Delhi, it is the highest landfill. It has spread over the 70 acres and it has reached height of 65 to 73 meters during this particular July 20. Also, as we think of this particular Deonar dumping ground in Mumbai, it is the oldest one. It was established in 1927. Presently, it is spread over 330 acres and it has reached to the height of 35 meters. Usually, whenever these particular sanitary landfills are expected to be constructed by making use of engineered principles like cell, even the leachate control mechanism, gas generation mechanisms, we go for the height of 15 to 20 meters. However, these particular attain heights of 65 meters or 35 meters are very dangerous, and hence the stability of such waste dumps is questionable. If we refer to the data related with this particular Ghazipur as well as this particular Deonar dumping grounds and lot many such dumping grounds in India, there are many cases related with the collapse of that particular waste dump causing various casualties. These particular waste dumps and associated environmental and health hazards can be brought under 5 main categories like air, water, land, and noise pollution, in addition to aesthetical appeal and health hazards. So, each of such factors are contributing to these particular categories. Say for example, if we think of this particular presence of toxic hazardous waste, it is associated with the air quality, it is associated with the water quality, as well it is associated even with the landfills. So here the contribution of this particular field parameters related with these particular say various factors can be studied in view of design, storage methods of collection means, frequency of collection of the solid waste, environmental status of the collection points and disposal sites, loading, unloading of the waste in the vehicle at the collection points as well as disposal sites, Sorting out this particular recyclable at the various points such as generation, transfer, storage, as well as disposal, even the operation and maintenance of the vehicles and operation and maintenance of the treatment and the disposal facilities. Hence, as we think of this particular municipal solid waste management system, municipal solid waste is generated, which is not controlled. It is being collected from house to house, popularly by some ghanta gadi, which is manually or mechanically driven, or sometimes the waste is directly collected by the sweepers, from where it is dumped to the community dustbins or junkyards, which are partially served by informal sector like rag pickers, from where this particular waste is transported by vehicles to certain landfilling sites. As the waste is collected from these particular community beings as well as this particular transportation, as it is transported to certain processing centers or recovery centers or energy recovery centers, it is expected to be used as certain fuel, certain energy is expected to be derived out of it, certain electricity is expected to be derived out of it, but this particular processing, material recovery and energy recovery aspects as of today are not to the satisfaction. In the light of the issues that we try to discuss, we can have the summary of this particular municipal solid waste management in India. As far as this particular source segregation and collection is concerned, it is not organized, as well it is not scientifically planned. The treatment and disposal facilities are not up to the mark. The solid waste is mostly disposed without any treatment. There is no formal mechanism as far as recycling and recovery is concerned. Certain rag pickers as well as the primary dealers are assisting the aspect of recycling and recovery. Recently, some efforts have been started to recover this particular material as well as the energy formally. There is a very good policy framework. There is a strong legislation provision. The roles of the urban local body, the roles of the state pollution control board are being governed through the policy as well as legislation. However, as we think of this particular implementation, it is very lean. At most of the places, the technologies being used are conventional or age-old. Recently, as I tried to mention earlier, some of the technologies are being employed in order to recover the material as well as recover the energy to some extent. However, as we think of the actual implementation, it is not up to the order, mostly because of the financial issues. Here, various urban local bodies are in dire financial need for operation and maintenance and are barely able to collect some money and support proportionately from its populace. Hence, as we have the overview related with the improper management, the various reasons can be considered as listed down here. As we think of this particular picture, there is an improper planning of the township. Hence, there is a slum area, there is the presence of the squatter houses, there is a presence of high-rise buildings being adjacent to each other. Such improper planned and haphazard growth is not being served by these particular urban local bodies through their institutional setup. Also, as we think of such kind of unplanned and haphazard growth, ULBs maintain indifferent attitudes as far as the user charges and sustainability approaches are concerned. In general, there is a lack of technical and trained manpower. The community awareness is not much, hence its involvement, participation is not up to the mark. The various cells and manpower available with the ULBs do not have sufficient expertise as well as exposure to certain modern techniques as well as best practices, and hence mostly they rely on the various consultants related with the solid waste management, right from writing the proposal as well while designing these particular facilities. And as and when it is seen that if the interest related with these particular private consultants and the ULB do not match, the system becomes stuck. In this particular light, there are many solid waste management systems are failure at many cities. There is not the formal mechanism for the creation of the awareness. However, as we see, certain NGOs as well, certain companies are taking efforts in order to create such kind of awareness. Even as we think of the source generation, as we think about the quality and quantity aspect of that particular solid waste, even if we think about the collection capacities or processing capabilities, there is a need of efficient management information system, which is not present as far as present scenario is concerned. As we discussed previously, every ULB is in dire need of the money. However, even if the funds are provided through some extraneous source, or if it is obtained through the central governments, the fund utilization capability of these particular urban local bodies is questionable. As we consider the immediate past, many steps have been taken by various associated stakeholders of this particular solid waste management. The main concentration was on the people to discourage them to throw their waste in unauthorized areas. So certain awareness was brought in order to use non-corrosive container bins with lid in order to store certain biodegradable waste. As well, certain dry and recyclable waste were expected to be stored in various colored bins. So here the way you see that blue bin is provided for the plastic. This Green bin is provided for certain green waste. As we think of this particular red, it is provided for this particular metal and similarly. So here certain glass like products or such recyclables can be provided through this particular color case. Also, effort was taken in order to provide the separate system for hazardous waste. Certain areas which are difficult to access, where the vehicle is not directly reaching, at such places, certain separate bins for the food as well as the recyclable waste bins were provided and efforts were attempted for the collection on day-to-day basis. Also, as we think of certain intermediate period, the concept of waste to energy was also implemented at some of the places, especially this period was 2011 to 15 or such. Various other supplementary techniques which are implementable on site itself are being taken by many individuals, by voluntary groups, certain community groups, certain government agencies, even the private companies as a part of their corporate social responsibility. Some Excel industries are promoting also the anaerobic composting, though many alternatives are planned and implemented. There is not much of the success related with these particular solid waste management systems. Hence, one has to take many efforts in order to manage the solid waste effectively. There is a very nice document published by Maharashtra Pollution Control Board in 2005 in line with the guidelines given by Central Pollution Control Board. As we think of these particular provisions, it is in the light of the constitutional obligation of each citizen under the Article 51AG to protect the environment. According to it, each citizen should contribute to protect the environment by reducing, reusing and recycling the solid waste and thereafter managing its safe disposal. According to these particular guidelines, the solid waste is expected to be segregated, stored and disposed. The major emphasis was given on the role of non-governmental organizations, and their contribution was expected to take the initiatives to work with the local residents to improve the sanitation, segregation of the waste as well as garbage management. Also, they were expected to play their active role in organizing various surveys, studies and new technologies to attract the private entrepreneurs to take up municipal solid waste management as a project at the professional level. These NGOs were expected to help to create the awareness in the society about the cleanliness, importance of this particular waste segregation, hazardous effects of the improper solid waste management, and to promote the education as well as awareness even at the school level. Their role related with the involvement of the community, encouragement for the minimization of the waste through in-house backyard composting, vermicomposting and biogas generation haven't fulfilled the expectation to the required order even in 2021. These particular 2005 guidelines are expecting the handling of the solid waste at source according to the various communities and associated activities. That is, these particular guidelines are also helping how a particular commercial establishment, how particular residential complex, how particular industrial establishment, how the people who are dealing with the management of the solid waste can work in coordination in order to meet with the basic objectives of solid waste management. Though guidelines are very nicely defined, unfortunately, that are not observed to the requisite extent. So, the kind of the discussion that we had will assist you to understand the various theoretical concepts that we wish to discuss ahead. I hope the kind of the concepts I tried to put are clear to you. Thanks for your attention. As we move ahead, we will discuss about the challenges and the opportunities for management of the solid waste in India. So by till then, I wish you very happy learning. Thank you.